Nerd Skool is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Now offering video visits so you can take control of your orthopedic care from the comfort of your home. Schedule online at orthocarolina.com. Ortho Carolina, you improve.
Hey, fellows. It's the first snap of another season.
Nerds roll. Nerds roll. Oh, my glasses are broken.
Surprise me.
My pocket is protected.
Surprise me.
I'm a super nerd.
Surprise me.
Okay. Excelsior!
I am a super nerd.
The Nerd Skool Podcast.
Starring Andy.
I am a former entertainment journalist.
The Star Spangled Banner with a plan.
TBJ.
Welcome, congratulations. You did dirt. Ta-da! I got no shame. I am what I like to call a surprise nerd.
Art Star.
I am not an incel.
Dark Star.
He's the nerd Gotham City deserves.
And yours truly, call me Joe.
Joe Verse.
That's why I said, Andy, you're Professor Steer. Because I know Andy would probably
get props for saying, all right, here's what's going to happen if they do it right.
Well, I do remember
Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah, so Isaiah Bradley. Okay, I guess we're starting now. Are we all recording? Yeah. Because right away, that's why. And so I hadn't watched it when I texted you guys all and was like, do you guys even feel like we need to do one? Did anything happen? And you guys didn't really answer. So I was like, okay, we don't need to do one. And when I watched it, I was like, oh, all the things, all the guys, everybody. Like, and so like Isaiah, I remember you saying Isaiah Bradley before, and I remember you saying Battlestar, but correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't think they would be presented in this way, right? The way they were presented was different.
Well, I didn't know how they would tackle it, but if they made a big deal of saying about how this would deal with the complicated legacy of the Shield, and what makes that legacy complicated, other than general American malfeasance over the last 100 years, but specifically for Sam Wilson picking it up, the legacy of what it means for Black Americans to be a Captain America. I think if that's where they're going with this, then they have a story ready made to mine for this, and it's the truth storyline that they did. I want to say it's shortly around the early aughts. This story came out of revealing that Isaiah, the super soldier serum, did not stop with Captain America, even though the successful humane version of the super soldier serum stopped with him because the spy murdered Dr. Erskine, and the super soldier serum was gone. They couldn't replicate it, but they kept trying because they wanted that army. Like Tommy Lee Jones said in Cap 1, it's like, I was promised an army. I just got you. You're a chorus girl.
That never gets old, you doing that voice. In fact,
Andy has to do a Nerd Skool intro in Tommy Lee's voice.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yes.
The Star Spangled Banner with a plan.
Yeah.
I'm not kissing him.
I was going to say not only an intro, but you need to do a whole episode as Tommy Lee Jones one time.
All right. I'll see if I can gear that up, if I can maintain that.
Okay, so, all right, so.
One thing real quick, but what Andy was just, saying, one thing about this, though, them tackling the legacy and Sam, I'm wondering if they are going to run out of time, because we only have 4 episodes left.
Oh, that's right.
So it's how they going to tackle all of this, and then we're still dealing with Flag Smashers and Power Broken, all so it's and we're not getting true 60-minute episodes. So I'm wondering, even the whole Isaiah Bradley thing, I'm hoping that's not just it. It was good. I mean, Carl Lumley killed it. But it's I'm hoping that's not just it.
You can't introduce that without following up. Either we need a good flashback sequence to explain his whole story, which is a compelling story, or something needs to happen where they hunt him down and he still kicks ass, even though he's
Right.
like
Right.
100 years old or whatever.
So how's he?
Honestly,
How
don't
come?
or it's-
underestimate Disney and Marvel. I know we only have 4 episodes left, but
That's
don't
almost 4
underestimate
hours.
them.
That's
Yeah.
like 2 movies.
Well, and
Right.
every one of these episodes is like a movie.
Yeah.
That's what my non-nerd friends are saying. Like, it's funny to listen to them talk because I don't even weigh in. I just listen to them talk about nerd stuff, and they were talking about how this is way better than WandaVision, and one of them was even saying, "Yeah, WandaVision, I get
That's like-
what they were trying to do, but he said there was too many
But
episodes."
I don't know if you
of
can
the whole-
compare them. Like,
You can't.
it's one of those things. Like,
Yeah.
why are you trying to compare WandaVision with Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Just like
It's
like they're in
yeah.
the same universe, but they're two totally
It's-
different kind
it's
of
two different
like,
types of
that's like
things.
right. As bad as New Mutants was, New Mutants, even though it's not in the MCU, was considered like a horror Marvel movie. So it's like it sits on its own thing. Like they deal with X-Men stuff, but then it's also a horror movie that just so happens to be, a Marvel movie. Whereas WandaVision, like, to me, it was more like, dealing with grief and self-discovery and things like that. With Falcon and Winter Soldier's whole nother thing going on. So
It's like a Marvel movie. Like, and that's
Yeah,
what
so-
that's what they were saying. Is that it's like this is like
But
a
even
movie
on
on
arts
TV.
thing, if Disney and Marvel are taking the time to deep dive into people's backgrounds, they're all going to turn out vastly different, right?
Right,
Wanda
right.
has a clear tie-in to the old school TV episode. Like, she has a clear history their history that tied her into this, right?
Yeah.
Falcon and Winter Soldier have a whole different history, and their relationship, their relationship is different, and those dynamics. So every time we have that's like if the 4 of us shot a TV show, right? And one day I shot one, which is Joe and I. It's going to be different banter than me yelling at Art all day. And then Andy and I will probably have the most civil conversation ever. We're going to have 4 different things happening.
So wait.
Even though we're all a part of Nerd School.
Are we like Fred and Esther?
Ethel?
Fred and Ethel?
Esther. I'm talking about Sanford and Son.
Sanford and Son. Fred
See,
and Esther.
there
that's
you
right.
go. Cultural divide. We go, I love Lucy. You
Andy
guys
and I
go
go to
Sanford
I
and
Love
Son.
Lucy, yeah.
I don't know. Some days I think we
That's
can get
funny.
along, Art. Some days. And then you disappoint me.
Whoa,
so-
that's disappoint you. That's big.
Yeah.
Like this,
Well, the first time you told me about your theory on the dark side, I told you I don't know if we can be friends. And I still hold on to that. But that's what I mean, though, content-wise, right? If Marvel is
Yeah.
making an effort to do each individual thing, they're all going to look different and feel different. And that's okay, because different things are going to, hit different people. If you're just watching superhero movies like Joe used to watch it, just for the battle scenes, just to see some fighting,
And that's what I
then
really
you're going to be into this more.
I really feel
Yeah.
like these guys they would watch it like I used to watch them, and I still probably do
Yeah.
that sometimes. But it was fun. It was like listening to me talk. Like if I hadn't started doing this, that's how I would have.
I bought
felt
half a
probably.
year ago.
Like I really feel
Right.
like I really like WandaVision now that I reflect back on it. Like I love the way they did it. I love the way it evolved. I love that it was in there, and especially because I really really feel like it was their weird characters too. Like we got into Wanda's psyche, and she's supposed to be this weird character. And I found myself wanting to explain that to those guys, but then I was like, I don't have my credentials yet. Like I can't.
But also,
even still-
there is
even
also
still-
no need. I mean, there are
Yeah.
different strokes for different folks, and
Right.
there are going to be people who will not like that ever.
Different.
There are going to be people who are even Marvel fans who are not
Yeah.
going to want to dig into the nuances of that show.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I don't ever walk around. First of all, I don't fly my nerd flag that high. So I don't ever walk around going, actually, to anybody.
Right.
I'm not that
And, see,
kind of...
and it's like
Actually.
that one initial experience I told you about in the comic book store, where it was like
Yeah.
I was in browsing my comics, and you had like these extreme nerds in the background playing Warhammer or whatever, really getting into it over, who's right and who's wrong. It's like nerddom should be fun. It shouldn't be where you don't get it. You got to watch it from this standpoint. Like, no, I mean, if someone watches something and they don't get what's going on, but they like watching it, so be it. They don't have to come away with a saying
test of nerd maturity, I would say. If you can resist the temptation to actually the shit out of somebody,
right?
But I do think I will say
a certain level of nerd.
I will say
you just sit back and smirk and be like, yeah.
So I kind of,
if the discussion comes my way, I will offer the information that I know.
Right.
Yeah.
But I am not going to butt into this and steamroll over people and say, well, actually, what happened was, if there's an organic way to bring that up, but many nerds just want to sort of gatekeep a little bit. And nerds want to talk about nerd shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
If they know shit and they want to tell people about nerd shit, and so rarely does it come up that anyone is interested in the shit they know.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit.
I'm not pushing it off on everybody else. So, when that shit comes up, you're excited to kind of talk about it. Like, ooh, is this someone I can talk about nerd shit with?
Well, I did note, I was more than anything, I was trying to just hear what people that aren't nerds were saying about it, the two things. And they did say that they both liked WandaVision, the second half of WandaVision, when it got more action, but they said, but they both said the Falcon and Winter Soldier is like a Marvel movie on TV from the beginning. And they both also said that they both liked Falcon, but they weren't really into Bucky as much. They were like, yeah, that guy was all right, but I really like Falcon. Both of them said that, and I wasn't even participating in the conversation. They just said that. I was like, aha.
Well, Bucky's kind of the straight man to Sam right now.
Yeah.
Sam is just messing with him because he knows he can, because Bucky is all this. He used to be a fun dude, and then now he's a murder machine, a recovering murder machine.
Yeah.
So he's got this conflict of stoicness and the staring problem.
Yeah, I love that whole thing.
So I think a lot of people just don't really get Bucky, even if you didn't know that he was a murdering machine. Just his brooding attitude. There are a lot of people out there that's like that. If these people who don't like Bucky, and maybe they sing something like Winter Soldier or something, maybe they'd be like, oh, cool. Bucky might be kind of a cool character. But even in this episode where John Walker threw the shield and it came back and Bucky caught it with his non-cybernetic hand, almost just like how cool was that? Right. And he didn't flinch or do anything. Bucky is ice cold.
Yeah, I got
ice cold.
I liked Bucky,
except he's burning inside. I think Bucky is good as, or probably. I mean, I can't speak to it personally, but as an allegory for PTSD. I mean, he obviously he's got that.
Yeah.
But also for anyone who's maybe served in the military and made to do some things that they're not proud of, or things that, in retrospect, were bad decisions or fatal
or
mistakes.
You've seen
things
some
like that.
things. Yeah, you don't want to come back home and talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of emotion inside that he can't let out, and he doesn't want to let out but he does. They finally get the group therapy. They get the dynamic with the therapist, and he finally comes out with what's bugging him, which is if Steve was wrong about you, he's wrong about me.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love that.
And I ain't worth all the shit. Yeah, that was the bit in Civil War when Cap is on the run. Cap and Bucky are going to deal with Zemo, and Bucky's like, "I'm not sure I'm worth all this, Steve." And Steve insisted that it wasn't his fault. It was what Hydra did to him, and he's like, "Yeah, but I still did it." So his self-worth is in the toilet. So he's not going to be. He's not going to be the goat, the character, the magnet character, like Sam. Sam is on all cylinders, and he loves messing with him and trying to lighten him up.
So is his relationship with Falcon supposed to be the toilet soup then? To help him make soup out of the toilet?
Oh, because he's in the
I just had to go back to the toilet soup thing. So we've got 3 episodes where we're talking about toilet soup. No, it's okay. So real quick. So I went back and watched the end of the first episode again, the second half, because we talked about last time how I didn't follow the story. Apparently, I was like mind wandering or whatever. And I think
you weren't caring about Bucky.
Well, I think these guys did too. Like I went in like not wanting to care about Bucky. I wanted Falcon and Bucky. Who cares? And so I missed the whole storyline. So I watched it again. I was like, oh, I see now. Like I missed that. So I listened to that therapy session again. I was like, okay, he's making amends for that, and that's why he's talking to Yori and all this. And I missed that whole part. So I was like, what is happening here? Uh-oh. Tiffany got mad.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. So now I got it again, and I really think, I bet a lot of people missed that. I mean, if you didn't really pay attention as well, if you were just watching for explosions, you might have missed that whole story, which might be why you didn't like the Bucky part. So I watched it again and really paid attention to Bucky, and I gotta say, as much as last time I thought he had a punchable face and I hated him, all this stuff, I'm really like, I changed my mind now. Like, I think Sebastian Stan's a good actor, and the staring.
It's funny you say he has a punchable face when there are people out there who want him to play a young Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, there was one meme a while back where it just
like
sort of
Mark
photoshopped his face onto Mark Hamill's old face, and it looks exactly the same.
He does.
And he could, if he put on that little blonde wig, he could.
I was getting, I was, so, and again, like I've had a complete change of heart. Like, I was mad that people were saying that before, but mainly because I didn't like the Bucky. Like, I think the Bucky character is dumb. Like, but now I went back and I watched that.
Are you talking the concept of Bucky as like the teenage sidekick to Captain America?
Yeah, from the comics he was.
So do you not like Robin?
No, I don't like Robin. I hated Robin. Like, it seems weird that you have a
so you
child.
Sidekicks.
It seems pedophilic, I guess. I'm worried. It seems like
that makes sense.
Maybe it's not.
If you,
but Batman and Robin always seem, especially in the comics when he's supposed to be like 13 or whatever he is, and then when Bucky is supposed to be like a 12-year-old following Captain America around, that's not a normal relationship.
When, first of all, comic books are, who's reading comic books, right? So
children, right. Children, you're right.
So
that's a good point.
That's the thing. On the surface, I mean, living in the time we live in and watching too much ID channel, yes, you can get too many vibes.
Yeah,
but at the time they're creating this, you're trying to target these people who are reading this. They see themselves, and look.
That's a good point.
Look how Robin has grown. Like, Robin is more than Batman's sidekick.
Well, and you're right.
12 Robins now.
There's a lot of Robins.
You're right, TBJ. Back then, that's who did read comics, and now it's only now that there's adults that are. That's a good point.
But then it's also Robin, like Batman for the most part, has always been kind of sort of a mentor to Robin. So so it's almost like big brother, father now, but like the other Robins, who pretty much he was like mentoring them or like trying to take troubled kids, and making them better. So it's not necessarily, and I guess a lot of people also, especially maybe you, Joe, you're just so used to the '66 Batman, and then the fact that Adam West happened to be Adam West, and then you had Burt Ward. So it came like that could not even, but like just think about George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell. Like that was like one of the weirdest Batman combos, but they were both about the same age, close to the same age. So you didn't get that pedophilia type feeling watching that, did you?
No, I don't know. Yeah, I think you guys got good points. I think there might also be a shred of, being the young. So I grew up being the youngest. And so I always had to be the shit left over. Like, whenever we'd play stuff, like, I always got the shitty Hot Wheels. Like, I always got, like, the broken...
then you should identify with the quote-unquote sidekick.
But I always had to be Robin. So, like, if we were going to play superheroes, I always had to be stupid, crappy Robin or Bucky, probably. Like, all the crap ones.
So your hate comes
Joe
from
hates sidekick.
Trauma.
It might.
I get therapist.
To me, like Robin itself feels like a lame identity. Like my name is Robin. I'm named after a bird, like a very harmless bird.
So stupid.
I have the power of a harmless bird, and like a bright yellow cape, and
yellow,
like,
red,
the
and
whole
green,
red thing.
like primary colors. Like
I don't know if that as a gimmick really works anymore, but the fact that it's got such legacy behind it, and that it's basically it's like an office now in DC. It's like you can graduate to the office of Robin as a main sidekick, and then when you can graduate that and become Nightwing or Red Robin or the Red Hood or even Batgirl. There's a couple different.
Okay, interesting. We'll
go run Teen Titans, like sidekicks get to do some different things. So Bucky,
that's
now
true.
The non-teenage version of Bucky has a moment to shine, and like Andy says, I think he's good representation. I think together they are both post-war, right? Mm-hmm. But they are handling it very differently. So I think this is a commentary also on what happens after on both sides when you're coming out, and you can't really talk about it a lot. First of all, you're 106 years old, so you can't talk about that. You're not even all the way human. You can't talk about that. You did some crazy bad things. You can't really talk to people about that. And you're carrying all this around and trying to be a productive citizen. So that's Bucky is struggling. And then, his struggling with his own self-worth. And then you got Falcon, who's coming back. And I really do think, we said it on the first episode, that they're going to dive into him struggling with, being a black man doing this job. And his, like he says, he thought he was doing the right thing by not taking up the shield. I think we're going to dive more into that. But he's also a man coming back from war and dealing with life a little differently and going about it the way he thinks it should go. And I think as we go into some episodes, he'll, figure out that what he thought was right might have not been the answer at the time.
Right. And we see a bit of that with the scene after they talk to Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah.
They're in that neighborhood and the cops show up and they automatically presume he's guilty and harassing the white man until they flip that. And
I was really nervous.
The way the comics did it, I believe, was Sam Wilson, when he finally did become Captain America for a while, Steve Rogers had I'm above the politics, I'm supposed to be a symbol, inspiration kind of thing. So I need to inspire everybody. So I need to stay out of the day-to-day. Like, I can't endorse a presidential candidate. Right. I can't do this sort of thing. Whereas Sam was like, I ain't doing that. He was in, like, if he's going to be Captain America, he's going to be a lot more of an activist. Yeah. And so I think that was the act he took. And that's eventually where I guess he will get now, especially now that he's met Isaiah Bradley.
And then we keep having incidents of him having race being an issue in a few circumstances. So I think, and in the time we're in, how can you be silent? Like, how can you take up the shield and not deal with being a black person in America?
Okay, so this perfect segue with Isaiah Bradley and Falcon, and I know you hinted at some of this might have been, and maybe you told us all of it, but being a guy who doesn't know any of this, I don't know what I saw exactly. So I looked up Battlestar and I looked up Isaiah Bradley as we were going, but I only saw a little bit. So what's the deal? What's Isaiah Bradley, and what do we see?
All right, in a nutshell, Isaiah Bradley, I'm not sure how they're going to frame it exactly in the show.
Right.
But basically, experiments on the super soldier serum continued after Captain America.
In the comics, they did this, right?
After Steve Rogers. And he never found out about this until after he was unfrozen in the future and whatever. But experiments continued in the Tuskegee experiment style,
right?
Where they just used black people as guinea pigs and did not particularly care about their well-being, and just tried these new super soldier serums on them. And Isaiah Bradley was one of the only people to survive the experiments.
Oh.
And so they would send him on these, and this was still during the World War II era.
Okay.
And so this was happening, I believe, while Steve Rogers was active, but he was never made aware of it because it was a very hush-hush project. And they would send him on secret suicide missions because they didn't care if he lived or died.
Ugh.
And
so was he mind controlled type of thing, or?
No, I don't think so. I think
and he was just going. He was just going because he's a soldier.
It's his job.
It's his job.
It was
Like
his
he
job.
like he
Yeah,
thinks
I
he's
would
a
think so. Like,
soldier, or he is a
If
soldier.
you're a
I
soldier,
guess.
you're in
He
the
is a
service.
soldier.
and-
He's not thinking.
But he is. He's not. I mean, he is a soldier, but he's not just a soldier. Like he knows he's a super soldier, right? Like he's not like just like 40 guys in fatigues, and he's just one of them. Like he's because I looked at the picture of him, I googled him, and he's like dressed like Captain America type of thing, right? Like he's
Yeah,
a
but that was
superhero.
because like he was not a superhero. He was not. He was given
The super serum.
super like strength and abilities, but he wasn't obviously like, especially because of the time, he wasn't like, here is another Captain America.
Right.
They were, because that was not where like that wasn't a black person's place at that time.
Right.
So they
The
would just
world
send
wasn't
him
ready for
into
it.
no-win situations, not even really expecting him to live, but he kept living. He kept surviving. And
And this is it.
one of
There's
the-
a comic book. Like this is in comic books. Like this is a storyline.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Of course it is.
It is a storyline.
Yeah.
And one of the last things that the last missions he went on, he wasn't sure he was going to come back. And so he stole a Captain America uniform. He took a Captain America uniform and wore that during his mission.
Really?
Succeeded in the mission, came back alive, and was thrown in jail for decades for stealing government property.
What?
Yeah.
Now is this in
Now
That's
he
why
alludes
he's
to going
pissed.
to jail in this episode.
Oh, he did.
If you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
Listening.
Yeah, I did hear that part.
That's what he said, and and he didn't explain exactly why he was in prison.
Yeah.
I mean, you can assume any manner of injustice that is commonplace, but I have a feeling we're going to
Okay.
get that story. We're going to get a flashback.
So you're gonna get a flashback. Yeah, you got to get a flashback then. Because I did hear him
you
say
can't
that.
introduce
Something's
that
gonna
guy
happen.
without seeing what his full story is.
So this
Either
whole
he's going to give the full story or his grandson is going to give the full story.
Yeah,
I
'cause-
still think, because when the cops are on the street, the grandson's outside paying very close attention to what's happening.
yeah.
My theory is he's going to find Falcon and talk to him, even if his grandfather doesn't. I think he'll be the one that has a conversation.
That
Right.
could be.
That's
And
my
his
theory.
grandson there is Eli Bradley, most likely.
Yeah,
who
he is.
is one of
That's
the
a-
Young Avengers.
Oh,
Read, people,
that's
read the credits.
Yeah.
He's listed as Eli Bradley in the credits.
So
All right, so
what
that's Eli
what
Bradley,
young
his
Avenger is
grandson.
that?
Or actually, in comics, he was his grandnephew.
Yeah.
So, and he had to get powers his own way,
Well-
which he might still do in this, because the power broker has been introduced, and he's a guy who gives people superpowers.
So one more
as
time to
apparently he
recap
does
for the idiot. Young Avengers is the same thing that Wanda's kids are, right? That's what they were.
Yeah.
Young
part
Avengers.
of
the original batch of Young Avengers, which came about to sort of inspire. They were inspired by the Avengers and trying to live up to their example,
Yeah.
but they were teenagers that no one would let fight.
Yeah. Oh.
You had Wanda's kids,
Yeah.
Wiccan and Speed. You had Hulkling, who was a Skrull, but he was keeping his Skrull part secret. He was green and buff.
I was like, Hulkling.
and he could grow wings and stuff. Yeah, he called him Hulkling because that was a tie-in to the Avengers.
Yeah.
There was Eli Bradley, the Patriot, who basically had a version of a Captain America kind of outfit.
The Patriot is his name?
He called himself Patriot.
Oh, just Patriot.
So
not
that's
the
when you
Patriot.
read that article that says this introduces
Yeah, yeah.
that.
Yep.
This is who they're talking about.
That's it. Okay, so that's in addition to Battlestar and Isaiah Bradley.
Right.
So
Right.
did nerds watch this episode just with like total overload of stuff? Like kind of like we did some of the WandaVision stuff?
Some.
Like were you guys like,
I would
oh,
think
these
so.
guys?
I would think so.
Some. I just kept watching it going, Andy was right. Here you go.
Right. when he said, when Battlestar said his name, I was like, fucking Andy. I think Andy has an in with someone with
Did Andy
Marvel.
see the
He
script
knows too
before he
much.
saw the script?
I mean, if they're doing the John Walker storyline, I researched the John. This is from the '80s. This storyline with John Walker and his the sidekick, sort of his sidekick.
Wait, This one's from the 80s. What before we jump into this, was the Isaiah Bradley one that you were talking about? Was that from the
No.
80s or was that the 40s?
No, I believe that was
60s.
introduced in the early aughts.
Oh,
The early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, it's like a 5 issue, and it's funny because after we watched the first one, I did a little digging around, and I totally forgot that I've read this series. Like I don't want to say it was unforgettable, but when I seen like the cover to the first issue, I was like, oh, I read this book a
You
few
were like,
years
I
ago.
saw this.
Now my
I remember.
brain is hurt.
I mean, I'd like to revisit it. I remembered, like, I was interested in the idea, but I really didn't like the art in the book. But I might have been in a
I think the art kind of was supposed
lesser
to.
place.
It kind of had like this '70s vibe, like especially like the first cover. To me, it just felt like I felt like Ernie Barnes kind of artist, '70s vibe. So I was
Was
getting
it
that
drawn
from
by
it.
that guy that Andy hates? What's that?
No, it was not
Nah,
Rob
it
Liefeld.
wasn't the Rob
Liefeld.
Liefeld
Yeah. Damn, I wish I could
No.
remember that name.
To be
Wait a
fair,
minute, so
he's
my
not the
brain
only
hurts
person
now.
who does not enjoy him.
So, so Isaiah Bradley didn't even exist in comics until the 2000s?
Remember
think
how
so.
comics reset all the time and
Yeah.
adjust and add?
And then when it
So-
took that long to come up with like what if it feels like an absolutely like a natural evolution of story. Like what if they had super soldier serum for real? If we had this thing,
Yeah.
this scientific development in the 40s, and you
Yeah.
wanted more of it, and you couldn't get any more of it. What would people have done then?
Yeah.
What would the government
It's-
have done then?
it's
And
totally-
we have that example
Yeah.
with the Tuskegee experiment, like
Yep.
looking for
Right on.
a syphilis cure or whatever.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
studying the effects of syphilis for decades. That
That's
shit didn't
Yeah.
end until like the 70s or early
I would say
80s.
That's
to any
crazy.
nerd school person reading this who is unaware of the Tuskegee experiments, please go research.
Yeah, Google that
understand.
shit. It is awful. Appalling and awful. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Which
It
it's-
is. So, I guess it makes more sense because they wouldn't be. This wouldn't have been written back in the 80s. You wouldn't. We didn't like talk about this kind of stuff for a long time. But now we're like talking about this. But what surprises me, I guess I just maybe it's a comic bias that I have, but I really don't know. I know nothing about comics really. So, especially in my mind, I guess I'm totally wrong about this. So, in my mind, I guess before this, comics are all just stuff that were done in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then in my mind, since then, everybody's just like modernized the old shit. I keep forgetting.
You think they're just reproducing
Yeah.
with modern art.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And
Yeah,
instead of actually coming up and adding in the
With new shit.
storyline.
which is stupid because you guys keep telling me about all these new ones they make and everything. But and then I guess part of me thought too that Marvel now, like the MCU, surely wouldn't put something in it that's new.
No, that's the thing with this.
Yeah.
With the MCU has the golden opportunity. Like one of the big white nerd beefs about colorblind casting.
White nerd.
Why would
beef.
you
I
change
get
the
it.
ethnicity of this character? Why can't you just
Check
create
your privilege.
new characters? And it's namely because a lot of like if creating a new character doesn't have the cachet of the Lee Kirby creation,
Right.
it doesn't have you can't. Will take decades of building to get them on par.
Right.
I get it.
There,
Okay.
so they tend to be shuffled off to the side and sidekicked. Whereas the MCU, they have the newer characters and the older characters, and they can put them alongside each other. No one really knows who Battlestar is that I'm aware of. He hasn't had a hell of a lot of great stories. He was in a Howard the Duck comic for a while, but it was. This is a chance to introduce him at the same time you're introducing one of the most notorious Captain Americas that ever existed. So they have a chance to put everybody on par as movie stars.
Yeah.
These guys are movie stars. They're on the same level.
Yep, and then they can go back and rework some characters in the comics. Think about it as like spicing it up, right?
Yeah.
Like when the last Spider-Man came out, and everybody was like, "How can Spider-Man be black?" It's simple. You introduce multiple universes.
Yeah.
Well, simple. I'm going to put in quotation marks because sometimes when you dive into different avenues, it's complicated. But it's kind of cool because you still have the brand of Spider-Man, and now you have this cool kid that everyone can connect with.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, like, how do you even? It's one of those things where people are so they don't like their characters messed with, but Spider-Man is covered from head to toe.
Right?
So it's like, unless we tell you what he is, Spider-Man could be purple and you wouldn't know it.
People
So it's
just
like,
get
why
so
get upset? Yeah.
like
And there's-
fictional characters. I remember when we had the Little Mermaid tour, and someone was very angry because the Little Mermaid we had was Asian, and someone's like, "How can that happen?" And it's like, she's a mermaid under the sea, y'all.
Right.
Her race is not a question.
It isn't
She's
even
not
a
one of
race
us.
at all.
And I remember, I think it might have been when they were trying to cast, maybe it was the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man or something. There was a groundswell on Twitter or something to try to cast Donald Glover.
Oh,
as
yes.
Peter Parker. And then of course there was the white nerd backlash. It was like, man, Peter Parker's supposed to be white. Right. And then the Donald Glover it kind of came out of nowhere. He wasn't really lobbying for that, I don't think, or he may have made a joke about it. I can't remember exactly how it started. But then he started listening to the backlash and going, all right, so you don't think could be a black nerd in Queens that's into photography? Right. You don't think that can exist? What is your problem
what
with
about Spider-Man couldn't be black? That's the whole thing. It's like what about him at all is white? Other than the comp. Yeah, there's nothing he's his name. I mean, even anything. I can't think of anything. What his name is? Peter Parker and Aunt May. There's nothing about him. White people don't. White people are so shitty. There's nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing.
People, Joe.
You know what I mean? There's nothing distinct about. Anyway, so that's a whole nother. I would love a black Spider-Man. They should just do
honestly,
a whole.
I think
instead of a cart.
I think the Donald Glover thing was the inspiration for Marvel to say, why can't we do that?
Yeah.
And then they created Miles Morales as a reaction to that thing.
And then for shits and giggles, they put Donald Glover in the Spider-Man film and made Miles, even though we didn't see him, made Miles his nephew. So that was fucking good too. Yeah. Fuck y'all.
Wait a minute. I think I must have missed.
Complain about that.
Okay, real quick. You're about to jump into this other Captain America guy, which I don't understand. But real quick, you touched real fast on Battlestar. What the hell's Battlestar, real quick? You said nobody knows what Battlestar is, so can you tell us?
All right. Battlestar, Lamar Hoskins, his history was when the whole thing with John Walker is Captain America quit because he didn't want to serve a particular political agenda.
Okay.
He didn't want to serve the government directly because he felt like the role of Captain America had grown beyond its initial I'm just a soldier in the military thing. So he quit and just went around just as the captain in a red, white, and black outfit. And then the U.S. government said, all right, well, we have the rights to the name and the outfit and the identity and the shield, so we're going to have our own Captain America with someone a little bit more inclined to follow our orders, and that was John Walker. Although in the comics, he was also he had been given powers by this guy called the Power Broker, or this company called the Power Broker.
He looked like an old version of Sting too, it's without the makeup with his buzz cut.
Yeah, think of Sting, WCW Sting in the old days, or NWA Sting without the face paint. He had that that was his hairdo, and he looked like a pro wrestler, and he was going to be a wrestler in the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation.
That's right. You did talk about that. That's right.
To become a superhero, yeah. So, and when he was just starting. He was trying to discredit Captain America. He was not a big fan of how Steve Rogers was handling shit. So he would stage these events where he'd go give a speech, and then these guys would, these dudes that they were called the Bold Urban Commandos, they would come up and fake attack him, I believe. Mm-hmm. Bold Urban Commandos, BUC, Buckies. They called them Buckies. They would do a stage attack, and they'd have a big stage fight where he would look cool. He was the super patriot. That was his name at the time. So then they decided to just make him into John Walker, and then they brought in Lamar Hoskins as his Bucky, which was like apparently an office as well, like Robin. But then I think someone informed the writer Mark Gruenwald. I think Dwayne McDuffie, who is one of the great black creators in all comics, sort of told him you can't call this guy Bucky because of what Buck means in
for black men
community.
Yeah, it's a whole
Right,
racial
it's
slur.
it's a slur. So like that's when they changed his name to Battlestar, but he still worked as a partner, not quite as a sidekick to John Walker.
So, but neither one of those guys have the super serum, or do they? Like, they have powers?
In the comics, they did.
They did.
Yeah, well, John Walker had the powers from the Power Broker.
Yeah, right.
Which I think we'll learn more about in future episodes of this series. I would guess Hoskins did too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he did. He did. They both did. They both had it, and then they've also been some rumblings on whether or not they too now have super soldier serum in them. Like
My
even
guess
when Bucky mentioned, not Bucky, when Falcon mentioned super soldier serum, like the kind of look on John Walker's face, almost as if like he knew, but he didn't know. It was almost like I'm gonna act like he didn't say that, and then just go into my little thing. You know what I'm saying?
My guess is going to be that he's going to be so he's going to get so frustrated at being iced out by Sam and Bucky that like he'll become so obsessed with living up to Captain America that he is going to go get those powers, and then it's going to drive him even further off the wall, and it's going to become a guy they have to fight.
Yeah, see, I read that convo art as, oh, you do say, do you? Like,
right.
Ooh, I need to go find this thing. Say what? Where at? That's what I read the convo as. Is it possible? Like, can I go get some?
I just started getting his ass kicked by these flag smashers who have it, who are all juiced up on it. Like, where can I get me some of that?
I just started trying to get into The Boys. So as I'm watching this, Homelander, I'm like, Homelander kind of reminds me of this U.S. agent.
Yep.
This Captain America. And when I say kind of reminds me, I'm like, Homelander, from what I've seen so far, is an extreme dick. And like this dude, he comes off kind of arrogant and pompous, but then also like, he's so patriotic or whatever. But like even when he gave his Good Morning America speech, I'm like, this dude, he has dick written all over his face.
When he bails them out and he's like, basically like, you can thank me later, and he bosses around the therapist. I'm like, yo, dude.
I'm just waiting for him to just pop his collar and put his head visor on.
But he totally thinks he's being like a magnanimous dude the entire time. He's very convinced. Oh, I'm doing nice by these guys. These guys are nice. All I got to do is show them a little respect for who they are, and they'll fall right in line. I mean, then they don't. We get that last hard ass moment of him just like, stay out of my way.
Right.
Like, oh, here's the guy. This is what this guy is.
But this this fight scene on the trucks, I thought revealed that every one of those people in that fight had the super serum. Like, they all were super soldiers, right? Both sides? Everybody.
Well, Falcon isn't. Falcon just has the rig.
Yeah, he's got.
He can fly under a damn semi with it.
Right.
Which is amazing.
That was awesome. But that's what I didn't get. Like, why didn't he, when he saved Bucky and flew under the truck and they went off into the field, why didn't he just, after they got done, where he's like, stop kissing me or whatever it was, he was laying on top of him, why didn't they just fly back to the truck and continue the fight?
Because it wasn't, I think it's not his battle anymore. Listen, new Captain America, you want to do this thing? You do the damn thing. Honestly, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's just like, you get Bucky out, and then, y'all do what y'all doing. Bye.
Yeah.
Or perhaps the crash and roll messed up his jetpack and he couldn't fly anymore. But they didn't actually say that. But
can we just pause on that scene, though, just to talk about the brilliant, quick facial acting of the actress who...
Infant's Nest.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna call her
And she
Infant
comes
Nest from
out
now on.
looking
Yes.
so innocent, like, and you're like, oh no. Now, to me, I was like, she ain't a victim. But her facial acting was just like, oh, I'm trapped in this truck. And
It was
then that
quite
smirk
Jokerish.
she gives before she
Yeah.
attacks. Come on.
Yeah, she
I
was
loved
good.
it. I loved it.
Well, and I looked.
It was
Yeah, that's-
menacing.
I looked her up, and she has like two sisters that are all. I think all three of them are actresses. They're British, of course. Like everybody else, that's great. But she was from. I knew her from something, Art, and I was like, I feel
Yep.
like she was in Star Wars or something, and she was in that movie Solo, which is also the big reveal with that is she's this badass sort of villain, and you don't know it's a woman, and it's just this badass. Was it Infest Nest?
Infant's Nest. Infant's Nest.
Yeah, there's a spoiler
Yes,
if
I
you
know
haven't
what's going to
seen
happen in
Solo.
Solo now. I still haven't seen it.
Sorry.
Oh,
Hey,
you're spoiling a movie for Andy.
You know what?
It's
You've
not
had
really a
plenty of
spoiler.
time. You've had plenty of time to watch that.
Yeah, but it's also I don't necessarily think it's a spoiler because Joe totally said it wrong, so it's not really a spoiler. He didn't say it wrong, but
That's true.
He got
Don't
the
trust
gist
anything
of
Joe
it.
says about a movie.
And
Well-
the gist of it wasn't what Joe said. So
But I remember
if you watch it.
There was a big reveal that it was a woman, and then it was
It was a big reveal, but
Yeah.
it wasn't the way that Joe said it. I mean, it was, but it wasn't.
But
That's
she
all
was
I'm
a good,
saying.
she was a good actress though, and she's very young. But so I can't remember. I had a point. I thought, but yeah, her facial acting was great. But I was so mad at that scene because he runs up to that truck, and the other truck's right behind him, like.
And no one did anything. Right?
They see you. Like the driver of that truck isn't going to say anything or just crash into it or like do anything. It's so annoying.
Well, maybe it looked like it was a trap almost. So maybe they knew they were there. Maybe they knew they had some.
Well, yeah, totally. Because she did when she came out, she smiled at them, so they knew they was coming.
They must have because those other guys were already on top of the other semi. Ready to fight. Like, why are those guys on top of that semi right now? Like,
well, we kind of, if you pay attention to the other scene, when they find them, they know they're there before they pull up. So they're not, for lack of better words, flying blind, right? They're on the run. They know they're on the run. We see when she takes off in the helicopter when they delay, the other dude delays them. So they have a way of knowing if they're being followed or people are onto them.
I guess.
Mm-hmm. And which begs the question, how do they know? Who is informing them? Who is keeping them in the loop? And or who exactly is the power broker? Who's that going to turn out to be?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
so this is Carly Morgan. Carly Morgan. This is the female version of that guy you said before, right?
The Flag Smasher was the original guy. It
was Carl something,
Morgenthau, I believe.
And so they just made
he
this.
used to look like. You know what? You remember Space Ghost?
Yeah.
That's what Flag Smasher looked like.
Black and white.
Much.
He had a black and white costume.
White outfit. But he carried this big mace, this big spiked mace, and he was really big on terrorism and whatnot. And his group was called Ultimatum, which was
you talked about that.
I said this before, but yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah, I know.
That was so dumb. So, they've made this lady. They've made this character a female, right? This isn't like his daughter or mother or sister. Or anything.
But I'm still suspecting that it might turn out to be an alias for somebody else. Like she might be revealed to be something.
Or it could be a daughter. I mean, there are plenty of people who name their kids after them. I'm a junior.
That's true. Yeah.
But then the motivations they seem to have when they're trying to, they seem like they're trying to do good things, which fits in with the Flag Smasher MO. It's like is you have good points. You're just going about it in a scary, violent way, and so maybe this is just another way to look into the complexity.
But who are you doing the violence against? That's the thing. Like have we seen them do any violence towards actual people other than people trying to, take them down? Like they had the fight scene with Bucky and all of them, and then We had
Didn't
the
they
one
do
where
some kind
they
of
was
attack in
beat.
the first episode?
The
Yeah, but they was
police.
beating people up. But like, did they kill anybody?
Oh yeah.
Like they didn't kill Torres. Like Torres' face could have been crushed. You know.
Hey,
So
was Torres in the comics? Did you guys already tell me that last time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was introduced relatively recently, but he became when Sam Wilson became Captain America, Torres became the Falcon.
Oh, that's right.
To
That's right.
displace
Yeah,
as
you
the
did
Falcon.
say
I
that.
told you that.
You did. Sorry, that sounds familiar. And that I remember that.
Underline it in your notes, sir. So
Yeah, I
you
gotta
don't
get some
forget
notes.
But he became the Falcon because the Power Broker gave him this messed up.
Okay, you keep talking about this
vertebrae.
power broker. Tell us. Go ahead, full go. What's this power broker shit?
he
Well,
told. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Andy.
I explained this before, I guess.
You did?
It's
He did.
Joe, you have to go back and listen, sir.
Ah man, power broker. You talking about the power broker?
Yep.
well, like because he gave John Walker his powers, he gave
Yeah,
Battlestar
and
his
you
powers,
said
he
that.
gave Falcon his powers.
Yes, you kept
It's,
saying this power broker gave him. So what?
And then remember when I said like on the wall it said Power Broker is watching, and then Andy
Right.
went in and gave you backstory
Right,
about Power Broker.
You gave the backstory of Power Broker? I know you said he gave all these people their power, but is he a villain? Is he
You know what? I'm getting hazy about it because
you're drunk.
There was Dr. Carl Malice, I believe, was the Power Broker or
Is the Power Broker.
is the Power Broker,
Right.
but that character name at least was in the Netflix Jessica Jones series as the person who created Jessica Jones and gave her powers.
Remember that part, Andy?
That's
Joe?
right. That's what you got to, and I was like, okay, shut up. Let's get back to the thing. Because when you got into Jessica Jones, I was like, all right, it's too many different things. Carl Malice. I do have a Google search on this guy. He's a fictional mad scientist and criminal appearing in... Oh, he's the power broker?
Yeah, but then like he may have started a company called Power Broker, so it might be more than one thing. It might be an organization, and it
Like
might
the
be someone else
council.
entirely. They might sense
We'll see
Malice
what
was used
well,
in Netflix.
the series
They
does
might-
with it, right?
right, because the dude in the Netflix show was like this weird hippie-ish rock dude who was sort of like experimenting, trying to perfect people and save people's lives in the shitty ways. So I have a feeling they're going to go in a completely different direction with this, and perhaps
Because according to Wikipedia, he's Superior Carnage is his name.
Yeah, in the comics,
Carl Malice.
recently they've actually had him become Superior Carnage. That's like recent stuff.
Yeah,
it happened not too long ago.
My
Yeah,
eyes glaze over when we start getting into symbiotes and carnage and,
Yeah.
and shit like that.
yeah.
But-
Lately,
I'm all the way checked out.
the Spider-Man side of the Marvel universe has been, and like the whole symbiote thing, not even being like a alien suit kind of thing, has been retconned. It's like now living beings of a planet. It's a whole like like right now Marvel's doing like their King in Black, which is dealing with all of the whole symbiote shit. So
yeah,
it's a big like forget everything you knew. This is what's happening now, kind of thing with Marvel.
Joe, symbiotes. Do you remember Venom? Are you familiar with Venom?
Yeah. I was going to say,
Spider-Man villain?
I thought Carnage had something to do with Venom is what I was going to say, but I didn't know.
Yeah. Carnage was the offspring of Venom, who is the gooey symbiote alien creature that bonded with Spider-Man for a while and then got rejected and was mad about it. So joined up with Topher Grace and Spider-Man 3 to kill him.
So is Venom... Well, there was a Venom movie, right? Recently in the past couple years?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that in the MCU?
They're trying to get it there. They're trying to get it over to the MCU.
Yeah, they're trying. Like it's a little complicated.
Yeah.
Sony has the rights to Spider-Man, and they know it's a
God.
gold mine.
Yeah.
So
And then they're actually doing I can say a number 2. They're doing a number 2. Awesome. They're actually working on a part 2.
Yeah,
A
there's a
sequel to
Venom
that.
2 that I think is supposed to bring Tom Holland's Spider-Man into that.
really?
So really officially connected. They like Sony has made a deal with Marvel to let them use Spider-Man in their movies, but they still get to control and get
They
profits from
still
any solo
are his
Spider-Man
main
movies.
parents.
Wow.
He's got like his main parents and then his aunts and uncles he goes with all the weekends to play with. So Sony are his parents, and then they say you can go on vacation with your uncle and your TT, and that's when he goes to be Avenger. And then he has to come home to his parents when he wants to make a movie about him.
Boom! There you go. That's a good way to explain it to an idiot like me. Was Venom good? Did you guys all see it?
I liked it.
I honestly can't even remember right now.
What's his name? It has Tom Hardy plays Eddie Brock in Venom.
Yeah.
Now,
And,
isn't Tom Hardy
and
the
it
guy who
also-
plays Bane?
Yep.
Boom! I'm a
Yeah,
genius.
he doesn't do the voice though. He doesn't talk like the whole time.
Yeah.
But I honestly am having trouble remember. I saw it, but it was Venom, and it was like, oh yeah, he turns into a big toothy monster that eats people's brains sometimes.
I thought you loved Venom.
And it is weird because they do like this whole like, you know how Hulk talks to people or whatever when his voice, like when Venom talks to Eddie, it's almost I feel like it's like Hulkish just the way he talks, and he like pretty much tell him like no more eating people and shit like that, and he's like I guess at some point in time I don't want to spoil it for you, but they kind of like learn to work together where it's like he's helping him and then other symbiotes come, so it's different. It's like it's a superhero movie, but the way that it plays out, it doesn't come off as superhero-ish.
It's an anti-hero movie.
Yeah, but when I say superhero-ish, I mean it's like you have like him doing certain things, but matter of fact, it's almost like watching, Ed Norton's Hawk maybe a little bit. And like you have fight scenes, but it's almost it's more supernatural than superhero to me, if that makes any sense.
All right.
Yeah, like
you like watching it. Watching if you didn't know who Venom was, you think it was like this supernatural action movie where this guy gets this thing and he go around helping people, but it's also fighting him and he trying not to kill people. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't come off like a superhero. All
right.
Because I don't even think if I remember, I don't even think he has like the spider on his chest.
No. Because he doesn't have a reason to, because he doesn't have the history of Peter Parker. Mm-hmm. So he's just a big black goo monster that has a vaguely Spider-Man-ish looking monster face.
Right.
And, I mean, I liked the black costume Spider-Man back in the day. I thought it was a really cool Spider-Man look. But when it became a weird goo monster that slobbered with his big tongue on all the time, and that was everything in the 90s. Everything had to have a weird, demonic, grinning slobber monster.
Andy, if you read up on King of Black and it'll.
I've been following it a little bit. All right, we're straying way off the.
I was going to say, I love how we were talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier all the way on Venom. And this is why I asked you guys how long we were going to be, because we don't ever just talk about the episode.
Yeah. That's what I was like. TBJ wants us to stay on point tonight because he doesn't.
Well, I just have someone. My hot water heater is leaking, and the maintenance man is coming. So,
okay,
coming late.
So we did talk quite a bit about almost everything. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add on this, or because I think you've answered most of my questions. I think more than anything, I want them to go back to Isaiah Bradley and I want his story. Like that's my.
I think they will.
Yeah,
I think that there's no way they can't. They'd be crazy if they don't.
Because they've introduced that whole thing, so they got to get into it, right?
Yeah.
And
I think whether it's whether they make it his grandson or they make it his grandniece or nephew, I think there's a reason he was out in the yard watching things go down with Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I think he may be the one that brings more of the story forward. I think that's Tiffany's theory. It could be wrong.
I don't know anything about these young Avengers, but I'm excited that they're introducing them to potentially like there might be a Young Avengers movie someday.
I would think so. Eventually, that might be maybe that be the next Adventures movie because we've got 3 of them already.
Yep.
We know the Hawkeye Disney Plus series that's coming is introducing Kate Bishop. Mm-hmm. So that's 4, and we've already got Skrulls, so there could easily be a Hulkling thing.
Yeah.
And then there's a few other ones.
We got Ironheart.
Ironheart is coming out, which is
America Chavez. I think isn't America Chavez going to be in?
Doctor Strange 2, I think.
Yeah, we got Miss Marvel.
Other dimensions.
Yeah.
So they're definitely doing
series
it.
coming out.
Now, have you guys all read the Young Avengers comics?
I've read some of them.
Yeah, some of them. I haven't
TVJ
read them all.
All right. Anyway.
Well, a reminder that I only dig into a few. I'm not like Andy and Art. I don't hang out at the comic book store that much unless there's a special event.
Hey, my comic book store right now is in my iPad.
Yo, I went.
I went to Heroes Ain't Hard to Find. I think once during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I have not gone in during pandemic, but I went into a random. You guys know Ollie's and Matthews that just has the most random things. It's like Ollie's, the old guy's pictures on it. There's
I used to love Ollie's
comic book shelf.
Wow.
It's like random comic books. It's like if you have a kid and you want to get them into random stuff, without buying them expensive comic books. But I thought it was pretty cool because it's like when Batman meets Wonder Woman and like all this stuff on the shelf. And it's the most random store. If you've never been in Ollie's, it's like Big Lots, but cheaper. Like all the surplus things get shipped to Ollie's. And it's the most random assortment of things. So the fact that I just looked at one aisle and I was like, there sure is a bunch of comic books in this aisle.
Yeah, we had a couple of
random comic books. Like they don't.
We had a couple in Baltimore.
Anything, but I think it's pretty cool for like if you love a particular character. Like I almost got the Batman meets Wonder Woman because both faves. If you love a particular character, it's a great thing just to have, just to be like, I have this too. But on a regular, I do not have too many. I get new comics at Heroes Con, especially from Black creators. I just make it a point to buy because I will buy a lot from Black people. Support small. But I don't frequent the comics like these guys do.
Or used to. I'm sort of following by osmosis these days. Just seeing what all my nerd friends are saying about things, and my nerd feed is so clogged. But I haven't really been reading regularly for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it used to be my job to read as much as possible, everything.
Yeah, so you kind of like stopped all your comic stuff after a while, right? You got so burned out.
But you still know what's happening. I mean, to Andy's thing, if you're in it, you're not going to not know what's happening. Like, if you are in that world or you know people in that world, like, there's no way you're going to miss a big thing because someone in your circle had said, did you hear? And you go, for real? So you won't miss it. It's going to come at you even if you don't read it on a daily.
Right. I just might not have like well-informed opinions about it. I'll know the bare bones of what happened, but since I haven't read it, I can't really, mouth off or.
And see, what I've been doing recently is like things that I'm seeing and hearing about. It makes me want to go back or either go find, a certain series and start it. Like I'm reading Powers of X, House of X now. Because X-Men, I love Jonathan Hickman, but like X-Men is starting to get good again. So it's like now I have to read this so I can get to like Dawn of X and then be kind of caught up.
Yeah.
And it's one of some nights before I go to sleep, I try to read like at least 3 books. But then I'm like, man. And the way I have it, I'm like, okay, it's 300 pages left. I'm like, oh, fuck.
So
I'm not going to retain this if I keep reading more.
That brings up I have a dumb comic question. I mean, I think it's dumb because I don't know if it's probably not a standard answer. But so with these different, like, I guess, series and everything, like, is there a standard, like, your average series is 6 issues, or is like some are 150 issues, some are 12? Like, is it all over the place?
It just depends on what the comic house is doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the plans, the original plans. It depends on how well the books do.
Right.
Because there's a lot of times they'll try things out as like a limited series if they haven't really if this is a new character or one that hasn't really had their own book before. They go, here's we got some guy to write a story that will last 4 to 6 issues, something like that. Or if they have a really big idea, we'll make it a 12-issue series and put it out over a year. And if it does well, then we'll just make it go longer and see if the guy who wrote this wants to keep writing it. And if not, we'll get a new creative team. We'll bring them in and keep that story going if it proves popular. Like one of the more famous examples I can think of is from back in the 80s when they first started Transformers comics back in 1984. It was the first. It was before the cartoon even came out. And it was just toys, and this one guy, Bob Budiansky, had to kind of create all of the personalities and everything around all this stuff. So, like, they started a 4-issue limited series, and and then it hit real big, and so it just extended and extended and extended because this was only going to be 4 issues. We didn't think much of it.
Yeah,
but people are digging it. So here's number 5 in a 4-issue limit. And like when they finally canceled it at issue 80. They kind of paid homage to that by saying this is issue number 80 of a 4-issue limited series, which I thought was so funny.
So, like, go ahead.
There's this thing called WonderCon. I don't know if it's still going on. It might have just ended, but I just watched like Todd McFarlane's virtual panel on it, and he was just talking about like pretty much everything Image Comics is doing, and he was saying like how Image Comics, what they're about to start doing is with their characters is releasing like they're doing like a whole Spawn universe. Whereas like for people who've never read any of their books, don't know anything about their books, they're creating series. So like let's say someone like you, Joe, who maybe just want to pick up a book, you can start here and not have to go because Spawn is at like in the 300s. Like you probably don't know who Spawn is.
Yeah,
but he's like in the 300s.
I feel like I know what Spawn is, but I don't.
Well, they had the movie with Michael Jai White, and they tried to do a new one with Jamie Foxx's Spawn. But anywho, it's like you don't have to go to issue. Yeah. You don't have to do like go start at issue 1 and try to work your way up to issue 300 just to know the characters and all this. Like this book is called, like I said, it's called Spawn Universe, and he was like it'll sit there and introduce you to the characters that are already there, but then also it'll be like, let's say 10 books might be about Spawn, and then it'll just like stop and just pick up with another character, and Spawn might be just mentioned, but you might not see him again for a while. But it's like a way to just get new comic, especially now in like the pandemic. It's one of the things where like Image is trying to get new comic readers by creating something so like you don't have to sit there and say like, man, where is a starting point for this? Like, where can I just get into something? Like Marvel and DC, they're like their storylines are so good, but it's almost like you have to pick a point and almost try to jump in and then have to go read something back here because they're doing so many stripped down, build up. It's like, where do you start at? Like, what series do you start so it makes sense without you having to go all the way back and start 400 issues before you get to like understand something like the Venom suit or Null or something like that. Like,
and that problem is why we don't get comics in like the 100 issues anymore. They will take a series, and if it goes long enough, they'll restart it. If they have like a new creative team on it or something, they'll restart it with, it's a new Deadpool #1. So just so people can see #1 on the shelf and think, okay, I can jump on here and start reading this.
Yeah.
Which is, that worked for me one time, like back in the 90s when I was like, all right, I can afford to buy one comic book because I'm in school and I'm broke. And I would like to do Spider-Man. However, it was in the middle of the Clone Saga, and there were 16 different Spider-Books all doing crazy...
I would get every issue. I didn't care. I
was like, I don't know which one to start with here, but here is Spider-Man 2099, which was #1. It was the only one of that series. It led into...
The cover of that book was amazing.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that, but it was a different character set in the future, 100 years in the future, and I can walk in right here and get the whole world right here. It happened to start an entire new line of comic books, and I was like, that is great. Here's #1. I can know what's happening with this. And so they keep trying to do that with all the new.
But do they generally?
So short answer, Joe, is it depends on the series. It depends on how the character is doing, and it depends on what the comic book house wants to do. So there's no standard. They don't always start out with a standard X amount of issues.
But generally, don't most comics don't they try to make each book somewhat standalone, like a movie would, even if or not? They're just completely in the middle of a story.
I mean, if you want a lot of standalone stories, you would get maybe some independent books. Like Image Comics does a lot of standalone stories.
I would just
whereas Marvel and DC, it's almost like they really immerse you into the world. So it's like if you're reading a Moon Knight book, something in Moon Knight might be referencing a Daredevil book. Daredevil may bring you to Spider-Man, and then so everyone, there's 6 degrees of everyone in Marvel and DC books.
Right.
So it's always something. Someone always has their hand in someone else's storyline, to the point where it's it could be standalone, but it is also oh, wait. Do I not especially for someone like you, Joe?
Yeah.
You're wait. So now do I also have to read this book because they make mention of this, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, if they announce it as a new ongoing series, then that means they're going to keep publishing them until they stop selling well enough to sell. But they'll either announce it as a limited series or an ongoing series, and if the limited series is popular enough, they can bring it back. But but an ongoing series is we're going to we want this to keep going. We want this to have legs, and the creator's on board. So let's do it. Let's hope it sells.
I'm gonna time check y'all.
Yep, I think we're good. I think we covered.
We got everything. We got you, Tiff. We got you.
Listen, Tiffany's over here trying to not flood my house.
Yeah, and all right. So the end of this episode, we get we're going to Zemo.
Yeah. So right at the end, and I got so excited about that too, because that was another thing you've been saying. I feel endlessly. You're like Baron Zemo this and Zemo that and Zemo. So now we got him, right? Or did we already know we were going to have Zemo?
Yeah, so and next time around, I will do a deep dive into Zemo's history to sort of explain it to all y'all.
Spoiler.
See how they change it.
Easter egg, 2187. The cage number that he's in, that's also, I guess, a nod to FN 2187, a.k.a. Finn from Star Wars.
Really?
And it's also 2187. It was something else. I can't remember right now. But that 2187 has been used quite a few times. But it's also it's a little nerd shout out to different, properties or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Look it up. That's 2187, cool. Joe. So you should Google that, Joe.
I will. I'm gonna Google the hell out of it. And meanwhile, so we gotta go. So Tiffany can fix her hot water heater, and Art can shave his torso, and Andy's going to name.
Wait, what?
Oh, sorry.
Breaking up again.
Oh, I said Art's gonna shave his torso.
You say something about Art.
They can't hear me. I can say whatever I want, and they have no idea.
Did you say shout out to Brooklyn?
No, I said.
I think he just said I can say whatever I want, and no one can hear me because he's breaking up.
Yes, and I said that Art.
You know what's really funny is that it's only breaking up on our end, and then once we play the listen to this podcast, he was so clear.
You're gonna hear
and we
it
come
all.
off like idiots.
Yep, you guys are gonna.
Listen. People need to know
Listeners,
that he's
they can't hear
controlling
me.
sound. So if we sound weird
me.
or we don't know what we're doing, we can just blame Joe.
No, you can't blame
all
me.
sound problems are always
Art
Joe's
is gonna
fault.
shave his
It
torso.
So we're good. It's
Maybe
Joe.
maybe
If he says
Andy's gonna
something
shave his
weird in this
torso
time
too.
period,
They can't hear me.
We can't hear him.
They have no idea what I'm
Right.
saying. So I can just say whatever I want about Art and Andy and the Chinese finger trap, whatever they want. Can you hear me now? Did you guys see Bad Trip?
Did we what?
Did you see Bad Trip with Eric Andre?
Wait, what?
I can't hear anything you're saying. So,
Did
Excelsior,
you
everybody.
guys
Yep, we're out of here.
something?
Art Star and
thank
Andy
you, and good night.
are going to
That's
do
a
the
wrap.
Chinese
Falcon,
finger trap
Winter
scene.
Soldier episode.
Say good night, Gracie.
All right, good night,
Good
everybody.
night, Gracie.
All right.
Nerds roll.
Excelsior.
Excelsior! Oh, my glasses are broken.
My pocket is protected.
Okay.
They say I can't rap about the president no more, but evidently they don't see we in the streets still poor. Still more incarceration of my kinsmen by the prisons, and people thinking this election to end in racism. Proud over pessimism, glad to see Obama, but don't expect me not to speak out when I still see problems.
The Nerd School Podcast.
Nerd Skool is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Now offering video visits so you can take control of your orthopedic care from the comfort of your home. Schedule online at orthocarolina.com. Ortho Carolina, you improved.
And I don't know what the hell they're talking about.